rendezvous was a big undertaking, and one thing that we need to mention is, and John alluded, we started this every year in May, April sometime, trying to get it organized, and I'm so pleased to see so many of the I shouldn't say the old crew, but the rendezvous veterans.
Look at you, look at you.
That's how fertile around.
Obviously, I was much younger.
Much thinner.
What he was doing was keeping an eye on the money.
Okay, we're going to talk about that. The first thing, though, I do want to mention is that the people in the background in those preparation months did a lot of work. People like Marilyn Perry, who arranged clinics year after year. And she was in that group when the numbers were bumping up against 100. You can imagine trying to organize 100 clinics and how many times she had to call people. And I know you know, that number of clinics that kept growing also put a tremendous burden on the people trying to do registration. And I know Mary Carter spent a lot of time working on that in many years. So I'm glad you all are here to at least get a little recognition.
One year I remember doing registration.
Could you stand next to the slide of you so John can get a photograph of you?
Wait, let me take the flash off. Okay.
You know, I hate to admit it, but we all do get old. So, but anyway, I was as you can see, I wore my rendezvous regalia here, and I found 3 of my badges that we used to have. I was the treasurer for about 8 or 9 of these rendezvous. I can't remember exactly. I was the Canoe Club treasurer as well, and so it fell into place. And as John mentioned, those first 2 years were kind of, you know, a big gamble. We didn't know what was going to happen. They did work out successfully. We were always afraid that the weather was going to go bad and nobody would show up. But we had good weather for the most part. We had a couple of years that had some rain, but it never really deterred the situation. And oh, this is a picture of Leonard Aulbach. We'll talk about Leonard. Leonard, by the way, was a wheeler dealer. He could raise money like it was, you know, it was the most easy thing for him to do. And he and Bob got together and I think really helped to get the, Bob wasn't very good at the finances, but Leonard was. And so with that combination, those first 2 rendezvous went through okay, but it also showed that we knew how to do it. And so as we moved to the larger venue at Huntsville State Park, and it came out in all of the statistics that Cindy had, that we knew how to build it, and the thing that people really, really appreciated were the instructional clinics, and those continued to grow right through the whole process. The other thing was that the clinics were not very expensive, but through the volume we, you know, had a lot of income. During the major portion of these rendezvous, this was a $50,000 event. That was our total expenses and revenue. Not our expenses, but our revenue. So it was a fairly significant event, and the Canoe Club generally came out with a net income of 20% of that. That was a major, you know, advantage, I guess, or funding advantage. And so we had an issue that was discussed many times among the Canoe Club officers and the rendezvous, and that was, what do you do with that money?
Party!
Well, we thought of that. One of the things that happened, Leonard Aulbach passed away in 1993, and so the Canoe Club, you know, because of his interest in canoeing and educational opportunities and funding those. He knew how to do that. We established what was known as the Leonard Houlbach Memorial Fund. And so we decided that we would promote that. In fact, originally, the silent auction at the Rendezvous was the funding agency for this fund to promote canoeing and paddling. And I know Skip and Mary Kay Donovan are here tonight. They handled that for many years and did a great job. It was a silent auction, and they'd get donations from vendors and things, so it didn't cost much. And then people would bid on those, and we would do extremely well on that. So then we had to figure out, well, what do we do with all that money? And believe it or not, we have some statistics here that Cindy dug through all the things. In April of 2000, it was reported by our Commodore Kevin Casement that the Leonard Houlbach Memorial Fund had donated over $40,000 of funds to various organizations and groups to promote those activities. And that meant we had 2 more rendezvous, and I'm thinking that we probably added another $10,000 to $14,000. My memory's not as good as it used to be, but I think we were talking about $5,000 to $7,000 a year going into that fund from the rendezvous itself. And so I just wanted to give you an idea of exactly where that money went. We donated to the American Red Cross, to the Rice University Outdoor Club, to the Boy Scouts, to the Bastrop County Environmental Network, the Galveston Bay Foundation, and the Texas Parks and Wildlife. All of these organizations.
The Texas River Protection.
Well, I'm going to get to that.
Texas River Protection.
We'll get to that. Well, I'm going to get down to some of the ones that are more specific to our canoeing and paddling, of which the Texas River Protection Association was given funds quite a bit, especially those that were used to protect our own rivers. We also got more specific. We used to have roll sessions, and the Leonard Houlbach Fund paid for the instructors on those roll sessions. They were at a local swimming pool. We also had funding for canoe and kayak instructor certification, those members who wish to pursue that, and a number of other very well worthy beneficiaries, one of which was Ben Conley. If you remember him, he competed in the 1996 Summer Olympics. We supported his expenses on that, as well as the Red River Racing Team for the Junior Olympics. So there were a number of activities where this event not only provided the instruction and familiarity with the sport at the event, it continued on from the income that we received from that. So we also put a little money in the bank, and even though Bob did not know the figure, I think some of that money is still in the bank account, if I'm not mistaken.
That's where the money from our CD comes from.
Right.
It's a leftover from the rendezvous.
So it did have long-term effects. That's basically all I wanted to say, and so, yes, sir.
Question, you took in all this money, how did you get it? Did you charge an entry fee to the visitors and to the vendors?
A fee for the entry, which I think was like $10 to the event. And then the clinics, which were very moderately priced, but when you have 100 clinics, and these clinics, they were all full, mostly full, 10 to 20 people, depending on the clinic. Some were small. And so when you start adding up the numbers, it was quite...
So you let the vendors in free?
We charged the vendors, and then we had the silent auction, which was generating income. The interesting thing was, I got to do very little of the stuff here because as that slide shows, I was watching the money. In fact, I used to get a screen shelter hidden away, and we had a security guy, and I made sure he came by my screen shelter regularly because I would have to go out and check the cash at all of these various spots. And it was quite amazing how much cash was sitting in my screen shelter on the 2 days of the rendezvous. But nobody knew where I was because, except a handful, because I didn't want anybody to come in and say, let me borrow some of your money. So anyway, it was a great event, and we, it was very successful, and I think it showed that as a paddling community, we could do something that was fantastic and well received across the state and still generate funds to advance the environmental and paddling interests that we have. And so I still get people who tell me, one of the things I really miss is the rendezvous, and it's been gone for a long time now, but it had such a great effect on the paddling community.
Did you have any of the attendance figures?
I don't have any of those figures. I don't know that. I don't, we weren't very good record keepers.
One thing about it is we literally took over Huntsville City Park.
Yeah.
And so if you know how big that is, every campsite, every shelter, and day visitors were all from the canoe run.
It was, I know we had over 400 people on most of it. That's the number I'm thinking.
Did we pay the park for every single campsite that we were covered?
No,
we reserved it, and then people rented their own campsite, but we reserved it for them.
Actually, I think what we did was we paid for the shelters.
Oh, yeah, the shelters.
Right, because it was important that we locked that part of the park up. And
I
then,
think the Sierra Club rented an awful lot of sites and rented them out to interested people too.
yeah. One of the things that we always worried about, a lot of this money had to go up front to lock in things, and it was always good to, when we sent that brochure out and the money started coming in. But it really was quite an event, and a lot of people in the organization here put a lot of effort into it, and they deserve a lot of the recognition. So it was a great event. Yes, sir.
Next question. You ran for 12 years, what happened to it? Why did it fizzle out?
We wore out.
I didn't have anybody to take over.
brutal.
A lot of the committee members, were working on it from May until October. It took a lot of backroom planning and work to get it up and running, because everything had to come together on that weekend, and fortunately it did mostly.
Some of us unbelievably tried to have a career as well as.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It was interesting. I'm going to say one more thing. We were able to continue to attract these top name instructors to come down because we had a very generous split on the money. I think it was either 50-50 or 60-40, 60 to them. I don't know if you remember exactly.
60-40.
Yeah, but it was very generous, and I wrote checks to every one of them because they wanted to be paid before they left. So Sunday evening, I was handing out checks, and many of the, like Bob Food, repeatedly made over $1,000 for that weekend. Very popular. He did a lot of, he worked every day, 8 hours a day, and it was worthwhile for him. But so they were willing to come back, but that was the real advantage. We couldn't have attracted the audience if we didn't have top name people coming, and so it really worked out well. And we still made money. So
Another thing to mention is we had freestyle championships for several years.
Right. It was an evening program, so there were just a lot of things going on, and they were all well packaged.
How many members do you have?
I didn't know she played the
I always, we usually had 250 plus or minus 50.
And y'all couldn't get members to get involved to
Well, we,
train them?
I gotta say that the amount of volunteer work, I mean, Mary Kay was chair one year. I mean, how much work did that take, Mary Kay?
It was a second full-time job.
It really was. It was
But I would
fun.
have to say, though, that where could we have worked so hard and had so damn much fun?
That's right.
Right.
I mean, it was a hoot. It was an absolute hoot.
It was, but I tell you what, several things happened. I mean, after 12 years, I think, some of the same people doing it year after year. We just kind of burn out. And I'm going to tell you, the last rendezvous was, happened just a few weeks after 9/11. And it actually, people's traveling became more difficult and different things like that. And I think the year after that, what we had was a freestyle event in the same location, and the rendezvous just kind of petered out.
You never thought about starting something similar again?
We're looking for a chair. You busy for the next 9 months?
I just want to point out why we quit having it at Huntsville State Park.
Hydrola.
Look at the hydro.
Look at the hydrilla. So we had to, we thought, well, we can't do it anymore, but then Lillian we were talking about earlier, who lived in Sugar Land, said, Flora Daniels campus over off Highway 6 has lakes around it. So she went and talked to the people that owned it, Lake Point Plaza, and that's where we moved the rendezvous to. And so these next pictures are going to be there. And look what a nice place it was. So I'm just going to be showing these pictures if y'all want to keep commenting. These next ones are going to be in Sugar Land. There's Bob setting up, getting there early. And we had rain. We had rain and we thought, oh no, maybe this isn't going to work. We've just moved to a new venue. It's rained this morning. But everybody was setting it up.
I think though, when you see these slides, it doesn't show you the scope of how large that was.
Just wait. It will.
You see little isolated things, but it was huge.
So this is us like worried. Oh, is it going to rain all day? Is it going to rain? But no, the sun came out. And then it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. Dutch oven cooking.
Was that a woman named Ann?
I have no idea. I know who this guy is though. Remember Charles? Okay, here this shows the scope.
Wow.
Good job, Fraser. These Sugar Land ones are all Fraser's pictures. See how big
And
they
if you look down in that lake, there was clinics everywhere.
Yes. There was also a great place for the freestyle competition that night, this beautiful spot. In fact, there's Lillian checking it out. So now I'm just going to show you a lot of pictures of people. Who's this guy? So on Saturday after the clinics were all over and people started chilling, is that Rolf?
No.
Okay. It kind of looks like Rolf, who designed all the t-shirts. There's Bob.
that is.
I don't know the other
That's
people.
the patented Bob Arthur look. Yeah.
This is Trine and Ann Lindaberry, who were the wonderful freestyle canoers who were so good that they upset Mike Galt and Mary Lou Wilson and won the championship over them. And I was a judge, and I think their routine was one of the most perfect ones I've ever seen. Mike and Mary Lou were very upset. And then here's Becky and Mark Molina, who were great instructors and freestylers. Here's some canoe racers, Grady Hicks and Zoltan.
No kidding. Wow.
And there were just lots of cute guy instructed. I mean,
Oh, my.
yeah.
A lot of soda water, those 5 cans there.
And then this good-looking couple. That's Tom and his wife. This is at the banquet, which was in the Fleur Daniel, that's Pat's brothers and her sister from Southwest Canoe. Yeah, we had it, and there's Marilyn and Perry. Now, Marilyn did clinics, and I was doing the registration for them one year, and oh my God, how many phone calls do we have from changing the clinics around twice a day? That was a huge job that she did, and she was great. There's some former officers.
There's some babes.
Candy Donahue was Vice Commodore, and Bill and Donna Grimes were each Commodore in their turn. And then, this is from the last rendezvous, which was at the Sugarland, and that's Cheryl Clary, who made this amazing quilt, which she donated to the club for a raffle. And guess who won the raffle?
You did.
And this gentleman at the podium is Jim Null, who was the last rendezvous chairman. And so he's recognizing some folks. So then after the banquet, everybody went to go and watch the freestyle competitions, which by then we were doing them under lights at night, which was very dramatic. And Mark hanging out with Janice. Now, what is up with this? Of course, your husband was taking the picture, so I guess it's okay. And this is getting ready for the freestyle competition. John was like the master of ceremonies, and Tom McKenzie, who was head of the freestyle committee of the ACA, was the head judge. I was a judge. That was kind of hard because there's a lot of technical things as well as artistic things you have to crunch to come up. And these are the winners that night. There's John Staub must have won the boys, and Lillian Taggart won the girls, and there's some other people. And then there's just some shots. These are all by Fraser, by the way, of people in the middle of the and also there were some exhibition paddles. This is Bob Foote doing a dual, they call it dual paddling when you have 2 canoes. And I thought that was Lillian, but I think that's Karen.
Yeah, Karen.
I think that's Karen Knight. Here's Karen Knight. She's the most amazing, one of the most amazing freestylers because she's a former gymnast and can just do amazing things. So she just started doing exhibitions because she'd win every time. Now, in the earlier rendezvous, we didn't, before we started doing it under the lights, we did it in the daytime. So that's Linda Galeros, and I forget who this couple is. And this is all being done to music. Mike and Mary Lou were always very dramatic, which is good because it makes for a good performance. There's Fred and Marie Hurd in that canoe behind watching, who were some of the club founders he was talking about earlier. So they were very dramatic. And then there's Bob. He did this was probably to Friends in Low Places by Garth Brooks.
Low braces.
I had friends with low braces. And then these people, I don't know who the heck this was. I guess we'd let anybody in. But no, actually, they were very good. And they had a lot of attitude. But you know what? You can't really get the effect. Here's my cursor. My cursor, oh, there it is. I want to turn this off. This is the end of this.
Okay.
And just shut this down. Just shut it off. Okay, and then I want to play.
Did you cater meals and charge for them, and did you have to reach time?
Yes, we did.
This is.
We had Saturday night dinners for everybody. They bought tickets. And Friday night, though, we provided meals for all the vendors and instructors and club presidents, and it was a fun party. So we had 2 dinners, really. Oh, and there were vendors that served breakfast and lunch.
Okay, you're right. Is that John?
This is John.
Wow.
It's called interpretive freestyle because there's Skip. There's the God of it holding it. Now there's a certain number of required maneuvers that you have to do. And also, the degree of difficulty is greater if you're going backwards. So people try to do a lot of backwards. Do it backwards. Reverse so there's a lot of technical aspects, but there's also artistic and performance grades. So attitude is very important, and Cindy has lots of attitude. So they want to reward for this.
That was back in 91. That was back in 91, and I will tell you, we spent hundreds of hours practicing.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's about all I have. Is there any other questions? What's that?
Wait, John and Cindy, you participated in the freestyle and coordinated the rendezvous?
Yes, we did.
And we did.
We had no.
We had another.
Had no. Okay, that's all I